Hello everyone, my name is Bruce Mann and I am one of the local authority archaeologists who cover the northeast of Scotland. And it is an absolute pleasure of mine to welcome you to this series of talks about one of, if not the most important, archaeological site in Aberdeen. And the site I'm talking about is of course St Nicholas Kirk, sitting in the heart of the city. Many of you will have walked past it over the years on the way to work, to the shops, or as a visitor exploring the sites. Perhaps you have even sat with a coffee and a sandwich on one of the benches in the graveyard. Many of you will have also been inside the building for the various services and events, and some of you will have also witnessed the amazing excavation that happened here back in 2006. The talks that follow will take you on a journey behind what happened that year and since then, as the story continues to unfold with new discoveries. The Kirk of St Nicholas, as you see it today, is largely an 18th, 19th century building. It sits on an earlier 15th century church and it has surviving elements from an even earlier 12th century church. It was one of the largest and most important medieval churches in Scotland, serving the whole of the royal borough of Aberdeen at the time, and has been used as a burial ground for at least 900 years. It is the Mither Kirk, or the mother church of our city. Starting with the why the archaeological excavation took place, some of the Open Space Trust members, including Arthur Winfield, their project manager, will give you an oversight of the project they started back in 2003. St Nick's is really a building of two halves, a western half that is open to all of you, and an eastern half that is rarely seen at the moment. The objective was to take the former East Kirk of St Nicholas and convert it to create a new space for the people of Aberdeen to use. That project needed new foundations to be built, and as the site sat on the remains of those earlier churches and burials, an archaeological excavation was required. Alison Cameron in her talk will guide you through that excavation. The discoveries that were made as a result can be divided largely into three very broad categories. The first are the remains of the earlier buildings on the site, which are at different levels below the different layers of skeletons. Walls basically tell us a story of church building, rebuilding, destruction, even resurrection. At the lowest level, we can stand and see part of the apse of an early 12th century church. Here on this plan, it's marked in blue on the left-hand side. And in this photograph, it's this lighter coloured wall that you see curving in front of you. And that's the oldest wall still surviving today within the city, a remarkable survival. The second category of discoveries would be the burials themselves. Hundreds of skeletons, dating from the 12th century to the 17th century, represent a unique opportunity for us to study part of the medieval and post-medieval population of Aberdeen. The dry sandy ground preserved the remains incredibly well, with instances of even hair surviving in some of the graves. And you can listen to Paul Duffy as he talks about these skeletons and the people they once were. And finally, the third category are the artifacts themselves. They range from the remains of the burial shrouds and coffins to clothes worn by the deceased to personal tokens and possessions they were buried with. Penelope Rogers from the Anglo-Saxon Laboratory gives us an insight in some of those surviving textiles, including hats, can you believe it? The breadth and extent of the burials found during the excavation and what they contained is difficult to describe because there was so much material found. In total, 897 burials were recovered and some 3.5 tons of bones. It is the largest single collection of individuals excavated from any medieval context in Scotland. Work is still ongoing to understand these remains and what new information they can tell us about our past. What is guaranteed is that there will be many more surprises to come, and the importance of the future work can't be underestimated. This work, of course, requires funding, and the Trust is always happy to receive offers of help with this. In the meantime, these talks will hopefully give you some exciting insights into what we have found out so far about that story, what lies beneath St Nicholas Kirk. And as I end my introduction, I ask that the next time you see them in the Kirk, remember these stories, share them with someone else, and hopefully it won't be too long before you can see some of the discoveries in person again. Enjoy the talks.